appreciate that. Thank you. So my journey has been very interesting, and I thought today's function is a perfect environment to share that in. I have been designing for 22 years, and I started off when the hotel and casino market started in South Africa. I happened to work for an international design company, and we got rolling. We were doing Palace of the Lost City, Blue Train, really prestigious projects, Cape Town. Most of the Table Bay hotels were done by us. And so I was exposed to luxury at a very young age. I think my first week when I started with the company, I was sent to Mauritius to do most of the hotels and resorts there. Luckily, I had a passport because I happened to be an exchange student just before then. So my exposure to interior design was very, very extreme, very high end. And when I went on my own, I continued with such esteemed luxury projects. And part of that journey was obviously when South Africa got opened up to BEE. The new age black came along, and they happened to be very demanding. I guess because we didn't have, therefore we wanted now. We wanted the extreme beauty, the extreme glamour. And being the forefront in design at that time, I led people to Bacchus Brothers, to Polaroid. I did the extreme of design. And probably towards my 40th birthday, they started becoming a disconnect. And I was curious to find out what was going on inside of me as a designer. You instinctively know what to do with clients. So I thought maybe I needed to pitch more luxury. That clearly I wasn't pitching the higher luxury. So off I went to study in Monaco first, luxury lifestyle MBA, and then followed by that, I went to Florence to also study luxury and lifestyle. And it was at my conference in Florence that one of the lecturers said to us, "Where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from?" And everybody was Russia, Philippines. I was the only one from South Africa. And he said, "We need to go back to our countries and find our unique positioning." And I was like, I've come all this way to Italy to study the Italian way. You're telling me to go home and find my African positioning? I don't know what that is. So I came back and I did a few more projects. And one project, which you'll find probably in any creative field, is the client was so demanding of perfection. But before they were, I was leading them. So I had done probably 3 homes for them already at this stage, and she wanted a quick makeover of one of her homes in Johannesburg and asked me to look at her dining room. She had a beautiful organic table, and my instinct was, let's get rid of this table and bring in the glam. I wanted high gloss. I wanted her to see her face in wood. And I know that's almost impossible, but the level of gloss was so severe, so high, that when she looked at herself, she could see all that she had accomplished herself to be. Now, little did I know that the 200,000 rand chandelier that I put above her dining table, every time she switched it on, she could see every single grain that was imperfect in her high gloss. So she would phone me every night or 9 a.m. the next morning to say, "Nthabi, can you polish the table? Or can you have the table restained, repolished, rebuffed?" We did it 3 times. At this point, I was shaking with nerves every time she phoned. So I would go to the house, and one of the suppliers then said to me that, "You know what, as opposed to us taking the table back and forth, let us come and polish it or buff it at her house." So 4 or 5 grown men were on her table, polishing, gruffing with cushions and stuff on their feet and knees and just polishing this table. And I was sitting there in her kitchen watching because I was petrified to leave. Because when you've now given clients the perfection in life, you can't even step out because they expect you to be part of that process. So her chef was busy in the kitchen. These guys are on the table. I'm sitting there, just nerves happening all around me. So then I started asking myself that, what would have happened as the thought leader if I had brought in something imperfect? If I had introduced an organic table mixed with perfect chairs, would the extreme need for such perfection still be required? So the guys carried on polishing, and I started in that 25 million rand house having a meltdown to say, I can't lead people in this journey anymore. There's another story to be told, and it's different from what I have been selling. So I told the guys to get off the table, and we left. And I left design for 2 years because I needed to reconnect with the message and the responsibility of the message I was bringing in by doing people's homes in. And I realized that a home is a place where we reconnect with ourselves. It's the place where we remove the eyelashes, where we remove the weaves, where we remove the fancy nails on the clothes, and you are in your cocoon. And how do I create those incubations? How do I create environments of healing for my demanding clients? So then I realized that the inspiration lay in nature. I don't know if you know, there's a luxury estate in the northern area that I was invited to design one of the show houses there. And I went thinking they wanted Nthabi Taukubong. They wanted the glam, the luxury, the understanding of the black esteemed upcoming market. And I presented to a team, a room full of project managers, QSs, architects, and there was a level of confusion in their faces. And I was just like, I've never in my 20 years got a presentation pitch wrong. So luckily, they still wanted me around the table, and the architect was told to have a private conversation with me later on. And he said to me, your spaces are not breathing. We need you to make it less formal. Can you bring in nature? And I was like, what is he talking about? I'm Nthabi Taukubong. What nature? To date, I had never even been to Valence in 20 years since I'd started my design. And this man was telling me to bring in a log into interior. So I took the weekend to just go have a moment to say, what is this bring in nature? What do they mean by that? And obviously, having now left the career for 2 years and being called back and saying, no, we don't want you, we want the natural you. We don't want the facade of you, we want you to create spaces where people can heal. So I walked through to all the recommended retailers, and the first thing that I noticed that when I walked in, there was an immediate relaxation in terms of connecting with something natural. And this is one of the interiors that I did at that place. As you can see, me, Miss Designer to the Stars, brought in an organic, perfectly imperfect shaped table, mixed it with natural breathing fabrics. And I realized that there's a different message to be found in nature. And the most important aspect is understanding nature in design. And what I realized is I didn't have to have the education to study it. I'd been a designer for so long. There are rooms where you walk in and they immediately connect with your soul. So I decided to say, what is that connects with me? And I figured out that it's the balance of life. It's when we have earth, water, air, and fire in a space. I don't know if you've ever walked into extremely glamorous home that's just full of gold, full of silk, and there's a disconnect. Your body can't relate to the senses. The body can't relate to the room. The reason is that we don't have a balance of the senses. We need enough glass, we need enough air, we need enough marble, we need enough wood to keep us holistically at peace. So the pyramid or the diamond of life, the design alchemy comes in having enough earth, which is wood, fire, furniture, having enough fire, which is candles, which is light, which is mood. You know when you create a mood through lighting? And then also water. Water can be bought through rugs, through the color of blue, and air, the openness, because that's what the architect was saying to me when he said, make the space breathe. I had cluttered the furniture so much, clients couldn't envision themselves in that space, because that's where a personality then can be created in a space, when you leave enough space for a person to identify themselves with the space. We were over-designing was the requirement before I had the understanding that bring nature in. Let the interior speak for itself without overcompensating for the senses. So what I realized by getting enough wood, fire, water, and air was that I was instinctively connecting my clients to their natural senses of hearing, touch, sight, and smell. Because when you experience something, you naturally want to say, "Ooh, can I touch?" And that's what an interior needs to do. It needs to release that feeling of you wanting to touch, to connect, to take your shoes off. So from being extreme luxury, I then realized that the importance was creating barefoot luxury, where people could actually put their feet up on the chairs that I designed. Because I was so busy doing 5,000 Rand a meter fabric, if I saw a child in the room, I'd be like, "Oh, not on the chair, take your feet off," which is not a way to live. You know, your home is your place of healing, of restoring. So we started creating a different language. And I realized that when you bring those 5 elements into nature, you actually have calmer, livable, more natural spaces. The interesting part that also Dr. Illimal will compliment me on is that in those 5 senses of earth, water, fire, and air, there's a 5th scent that is most important. The 5th essence is spirit. when you walk into an interior and your spirit is uplifted, when you're relaxed in an environment and your spirit is uplifted, the spirit of nature being the holistic leader of what we create. So in my interiors before then, I had never even brought in a plant into a house, because I thought that that would actually just deter from the attraction of where the furniture was being placed. So I realized that it wasn't necessarily just bringing in greenery into the interior, it was also bringing in senses that could naturally connect the client to their personal spaces. And that happened through fabrics that I started using. The color palette that I started using became more natural, became more sandy, so that I could create calming, almost resort-like spa interiors as opposed to show houses. So the show house had to be dropped, and I had to now help clients create homes, is where the brief now took me to, by introducing natural content into the interior. So here's a mix of what perfectly imperfect would be in my style of interior, where the fabric, as I would have used previously, would have been chenille or velvet on that sofa. But now I started using natural, breathable cottons and bringing in organically made, handmade, imperfect interiors, and just calming the interiors down. Because another thing about being a designer in Africa, we assume that, we are so glamorous, we're so loud, we have such powerful prints and colors that we want to wear. That doesn't necessarily translate to the space we want to live in. Where we want to reside is a place of calm. And a pop of color with cushion or artwork is always welcomed. But most of the interior has to be breathable, simple luxury, effortless living, perfectly imperfect. Imperfect in the understanding that what is made by hand is not computerized. It's the natural process of making something beautiful by hand that where true design beauty resides. And making clients understand that in their glamorous homes was a real challenge. But I think having opportunities where architects, designers, life, stress, and job takes you, you have to create healing spaces. So my career became rebirthed, understanding that the spaces that we live in can use grass cloth, can use fabrics that are just more breathable, water, glass, essence of nature, to complement spaces that people can heal. We have such fast-paced, busy jobs. I don't think the design job must now be to create more stress in people's homes. We have to create places where people can heal by complementing what happens in nature into the interior. And from there, I learned that also guiding the client outside. So our interiors became more open. I have a concept of indoor-outdoor, that the lines between the outdoor and the indoor must be so minimal that there's a continual flow, there's a continual attachment, there's a continual connection to what happens on the outdoors. And I hope everybody can heal in their spaces, and just know there's a place for glamour, then there's a place to connect with your essence. Thank you.